But let's get into this episode. So, Saskia, great to have you on. Why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So yes, I'm Saskia. Like you said, I'm a comms brand and marketing specialist. I've got my own consultancy, and I began my journey in the care sector by doing a full rebrand for an executive search agency. Became heavily involved in the care sector and just fell in love with it. Fell in love with the people who are so dedicated, their passion, and just decided that actually what I wanted to be able to do was support care homes to redefine their brands, build brands, work on all their digital media and marketing, and just really help them to attract new residents, and also with the recruitment as well, how to attract people to work for them, so their employer branding. Yeah, so I think that's it, and that's how I made my journey into the care sector. And yeah, I love what I do, and I love working with the care sector. It's amazing.
Fabulous. Great. Well, let's get straight in. So let's put a bit of a context here. So imagine you are a care provider starting from scratch, either a residential nursing home provider or perhaps a home care agency. And you are either starting off with a single home, let's say, or else you have a big vision to be a larger group of care homes, let's say. And what do you need to be thinking about when you are thinking about your branding?
I think one of the first things that I always recommend clients do is actually look at the brand positioning. So actually, look at the demographics, the kind of people who are in the local area where you think you're going to generate those resident inquiries from, and also where you're going to recruit the people. And alongside that, you need to look at the competitors. So with regards to brand positioning, looking at all the competitors who are in that current marketplace, and where do you think you can fit with the price point of what you're going to be sort of selling the rooms for, and also I suppose the salaries as well. So where is that sweet spot, because that's what you need to identify, and then I think and also looking at how saturated is that current marketplace for inquiries. And a lot of the times when I do a piece of work like this, I will actually mystery shop all of the local competitors to find out, and then to find out a bit more about them. And I do a full mystery shop where I phone them, because quite often they're not local to myself. And that really tells you exactly who you are or who you want to be. And what price point you need to look at, and maybe with some areas of the market where it's going to be more of a challenge. And I think that's the initial thing, and then you kind of want to, you then need to also look at your values, because care is driven by values. It's a very emotive decision. I think it's probably one of the most emotive decisions that anybody ever makes, because predominantly it is down to the children, to think about, when they're, or it's down to partner, thinking about when you need to look down that route. So your values need to be really strong. And then from that, your people, so the people are aligned to your values. So it's almost like that piece of work comes first, and then you can really flesh out your message, who you are, what you stand for. And by having all those, by knowing who your potential audience is, you can then start to think about how your values need to be reflected, that will really easily engage and attract them.
Mm. And how will a care provider, let's say starting from scratch, do that in terms of are we looking at some kind of checklist that they need to do, or is there a program they need to think about? Is this something that a related question is like, what in your experience do you find that people might skip or not do well, that they really need to think about, because these are the foundations we're really talking about here, isn't it, of a care provider? So
Absolutely.
if you get everything as much as possibly right from the beginning, that sets
Yeah.
you up. So tell me about what you see maybe is done well, not so well, and how in practice the provider should go about doing all these things that you're mentioning.
I think it's so key what I would call brand positioning. So really to identify where you can be in that marketplace. And I think one of the key things that I always recommend doing is doing full competitor set, and not just having a look at the competitors and thinking how far away and how many rooms have they got, having a look on carehome.co.uk, their reviews, their CQCs. Go really in depth into that. And have a look at their recruitment brand, to see actually, what are the staff like, but also things like look at their social media. How many followers do they have? How many posts do they do? Because the social media still gives people an insight into the home, into what it feels like, into all the activities. And I think, understanding all of that, and then things like really sort of go and, I mean, if they're local, go and visit them, because you'll get a real feeling for what they're doing and what you could be doing better. Or
Yeah.
if you think that they've really nailed it, okay, so what do we need to do to maybe if it's, you've got dementia care, and one of the care homes that you're looking at in the local area is absolutely brilliant at that. They've got a massive waiting list. It gives you the option to think, if they've got a waiting list, then there's a real need for that in the market.
Yeah.
So, you can really sort of like push that dementia, but then also if you've not got nursing, then and you're going to do nursing, then you can push that. It's really understanding the marketplace. And I think because that then almost it's being able to future think what the failures could be, because if you don't fail, you don't learn. And I think, but it's almost like you need to be as prepared as possible before you build the care home up,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think
No.
that's one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And I understand. And okay, so where do you the difference between, I don't know, having this this unique selling point, making sure that you stand out, that you're different. So the anecdote you gave was about, if there was a waiting list, maybe that's an indication that there's an additional requirement for that service or particular
Mm.
need. Well, talk to me about how important is it to have something different and unique about you. Is that really important, or are we in a position, I'm curious for your thoughts, where there is such a need for elderly care that if your care is good, and you're a nice care home, you don't necessarily need to have a unique selling point. Where do you stand on that?
I think with every care home, their unique selling point, if you're looking at a marketplace where it's fairly level with the facilities, with the care, with the ratings, that sort of thing, it's the people. Your people will always sell a care home. If you've got a fabulous home manager, if your activities team are amazing, if as soon as you walk through the door, if there's someone who beams a smile at you, if there's just like a life and a vibrancy there. I think the people, and that's what's so important about making sure that you get that recruitment brand right, because then you'll attract those sort of people. And for me, having done mystery shops, where I mystery shop sort of
Mm.
7 care homes in a local area at a time, and I talk to every single one of them and do an inquiry with every single one of them, it's always the people who sell it to me. It's always
Yeah.
the people who take the time to learn about my story and my loved one, and then they make it relative, so that they'll talk to me about. So I'll say it's my dad, and he loves rugby, and then that will come up in the conversation. Oh well, did you know we do this? For me, the USP literally it's the people, it's your team, but being able to promote that team and promote the activities and the lifestyle as well through your website, the social media, the local community.
Mm.
Care homes need to be a community hub, because majority, and I'm sure you'll know this as well, Adam, that the majority of leads and prospects for residents and occupancy come from within around a 5 mile radius of the care home. And it's a lot of it is word of mouth.
Mm.
So having a really stellar community reputation led by a brilliant team will always be, from my perspective, the USP of the home.
Yeah, great, very interesting. And I think we all appreciate how much it is, this idea of the team, your manager, the vibe they give off, how affable and that they are, and how they come across on the phone, and when you go and visit, that first impressions, and then of course the ongoing working at the home is absolutely vital. And I'm intrigued when it comes to this kind of follow-up of like the branding of the website and the colors and the look and feel and the message that you're then conveying. How do you start to, what kind of things should you be thinking about here, in relation to like your team? Talk to me about what you should be thinking about here.
Yeah, I think and I think, and that's what, it's that tone of voice that you use when you write a website. So, I've written commercially and I was an absolute nut at school for English and words and all of that sort of stuff. So my passion is writing. And I think from my perspective, when you're writing a website, you're taking someone on a journey through the website, which takes them into this feeling of their loved one will be completely looked after, they will be cared for. And so as they're going through the website and they are feeling it, if they're reading it, the image has to be as powerful as the words, because some people are visual, some people will like to read, but at the end of, as they're reading it through, it almost feels like I can feel it in my chest, as I read through it and stuff. It just gets warmer and warmer. I'm like, I need to bring this home, because they just sound so lovely and they're really going to care. And and I think when that's the thing about writing a website, it's not, and particularly in the care sector, because as you said, such an emotive decision. You can't just list the facts. There's no point in just listing, the fact that you've got sensory room, you've got a dementia floor, and there's a cinema, there's a gym, it's all of those. That's great, but what does that actually relate to? Because I think for the generation that are coming through and looking at care homes, it is around sort of like the 40s to 60s. And, around sort of my age, I remember my grandparents being in a care home, which just was what care homes used to be, where for me, it just smelled like cabbage, and people were just sat there all quiet, sort of looking out of a window, which it's not at all. Not, it's just not that at all. But I think the younger generations will know that. So hopefully, when it comes to, if I have to, go and live in a care home, which I think would be amazing, because I obviously, I work with some fabulous care homes, which are just spectacular. My children won't have that preconceived idea of what it is. And I think that's what's really important, is getting all of that across. So if you're advertising you've got a cinema, what does that look like? A cinema is for an afternoon film with friends. It's Fred and Ginger, but make it relative to the residents' age group. So they're not going to be sort of sitting and watching, I don't know, I won't say Mission Impossible. My dad loves Mission Impossible, but it is that kind of like, that kind of era. So making it relative to what they will love. And it's the classic features and benefits, which for people who work in marketing, I think, that's it. You learn that, it's drummed into you right from the very beginning, and you don't sell a feature without a benefit. And within care, that's what it has to be, the feature. But what is that feeling like as an experience for their loved one?
Yeah, and I guess you and I will know the range, just focusing on the website again, which is you're gonna be, before, if you're thinking of a care home, you're gonna check out their website. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would.
Yeah.
Everyone, of course, you would. And that first impression, that's often the first impression.
Yeah.
Bang! Within 2 seconds, you go, or yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's your first impression. And you and I will know what we see as a nice looking website, and like, oh yeah, that's nice. Oh yeah, I'll call them. Yeah.
And I think that's when I first started out as well, because I built a brand for an executive search agency, who predominantly were home managers and above. So I was looking at so many different care homes websites, like continuously, and I'd look at them and I'd know the home and think, you're a fabulous care home, and you just put like a picture of someone in their dressing gown on your website with, if there was like a local, someone had brought a dog in, and I was like, that doesn't represent who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing, because because they're so focused on the care, that quite
Yeah,
often
yeah,
within that sector they don't see the commerciality of a website and actually how to make a media friendly site. Something
yeah,
like you said, that within a few seconds is going to hook someone in to read more, because
yeah.
if they read more, hopefully they'll inquire. And it's why I became really passionate about wanting to do it in the sector, because I
Mm,
was like, so many care organisations just, do their heart's in the right place. They're doing what they think is a good representation of their home in digital media, but actually it doesn't, it's, you'd find Facebook photos for the team photos, and they you don't want to see someone when they're sort of like dressed up for a night out,
yeah,
because that makes me think, well, how are you gonna, it's the preconceived idea, and it's the unconscious bias as well, because that it's so strong when it's working.
yeah.
um
No,
yeah,
exactly. And I don't know what you think, but I think a number, I mean, there's some really amazing, delightfully looking websites for care providers. I think over the last few years, you've probably seen a distinct improvements.
yeah,
I don't
massively.
know, but I think that there has been changes quite significantly over the last
The
two.
pandemic had to do that because
Yeah,
people couldn't go and look round, and there was still a
uh,
need for it.
yeah,
So suddenly you had to be very digitally focused.
yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, no, absolutely. I was just curious whether your thoughts, your impressions reflected what I think I was seeing. Okay, so you've got really nice. You've thought about you've got these basics. You're talking about the unique selling point, what's special, how you convey that on your website, your value, your mission, where you fit in the local community, and you've got a. I'm always interested about colors on websites. I do think that makes a difference. What would you have any thoughts on that?
No,
Look and feel in colors.
absolutely. It's so important to get that color scheme right. If you've got a bright and powerful color, um, it's not too much in your face sort of thing. But also I believe in, like you said, colors that are, don't use gray, because gray doesn't, or like I have a real thing about, and that might be a personal thing, about using something that's quite an ice cold blue, because I think in the care sector, I don't feel it, it's that, because everything's at play. Everything that you're exposed to through your senses is always your subconscious is always working through it. And I think when you've got colder colors, or you've got really just like whoa, and colors that you can't particularly
Hmm.
read very well, that match each other, that's, it puts people into, I can't really put it into words, but it's a feeling. It's how your senses perceive it, and the subconscious works to go, oh, it's a
Yeah,
cold color.
yeah, yeah,
I mean
absolutely.
that, and it's fascinating, when because you do have to think about that detail. You're so right with colours. It,
Mm.
it really has to go into that detail.
And what about logos? Let's get into the weeds about logos, for example. What should you be thinking about? Should you be like hiring a freelancer? Should you be like, go into a super fab agency that's going to really think about it? Because, or can like, and how hard should you be thinking about this logo? I guess with AI now, to be honest, yeah, the graphic design is going to be like you can just put ideas on AI very, very soon, and you can have a super logo, and it will take you 1 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Although don't tell people that, Adam. We still need to work him off. So, um, but no, I think it is. Logos are so important, and so many people do get quite, they'll get quite simplistic logos, which is maybe like a B, or I don't know, mine's an SB, but it says Saskia Binns and then consultancy on top. Because what you tend to find people do, and anybody who's worked with me will have heard this conversation, is people suddenly think that they are a brand like Nike. And I say to people so often, when you've got a logo and it's just a letter, and you're putting that out there, you're not the Nike tick. If I see the Nike tick, I know that brand, because and they didn't start off at that. And I think that what's really important for me as well is that it's quite often some logos will say the care home name, but won't say it's a care home,
Right.
if that makes sense. So sometimes I think you have a sort of a smaller logo which has the name of the care home, because it's not, more often than not, I don't know if you found the same, but I came into the sector saying parent brand, always push the parent brand, but actually no, because most people know the care home name. They don't know the parent brand particularly.
Mm.
But they know the home. And I think it's so important to have the name of that home with a logo because that's what people know. They don't necessarily know the logo because that's your parent brand.
Yeah.
They know the name of the home.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, great, great. And let's move on then to the marketing, where all the brand look and feel comes into your marketing. And any thoughts, when care providers are thinking about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things with a care home is the Facebook. Facebook for when you're looking at it's I don't know the social media is different age groups respond to different social media, which is is always has done. But I think for me, Facebook now, it is sort of like it's that over sort of 50s 60s market who are looking at Facebook, and particularly with care homes. So the brand that you've got on the website can be amazing, but people will always go and look, because I always say that Facebook's the windows into the care home.
Hmm.
And but if that brand that you're promoting through social media doesn't
Hmm.
reflect what's on the website, people automatically are like, oh, okay, So and like you said, it's a fairly cutthroat industry when it comes to looking at care homes, and
Hmm.
you've got a couple of seconds on a website, but you can actually add value to that by putting it on Facebook as well. Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok was quite apparent within the pandemic, and I think that slowed slightly. But for me, Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook more than anything seems to have a real strong activities vibes to it. But also, what people tend to do with Facebook is they don't put a call to action, a CTA on the bottom, say that you'll get this lovely, we've had a great day, or we took our residents to the seaside. And one of the things that care homes can learn how to do is to then put, if you're looking for a care home, if you'd like to be part of our home, click here and send them into the website, or call the home manager and put the phone number. So, and that's where when you write commercially, you write to make somebody feel something or do something at the end of it. And that's a quick win for so many care homes to start adding that call to action on a Facebook post, particularly if it's a really good one that will get quite a lot of engagement.
Mm. Great, great. And let's just move on to championing social care, because I know you've been involved pretty much since the beginning, I think, if I'm correct. Tell me
Yeah.
about it, because it looks like, and I'm not just telling you this because you're a guest, but it has a nice look and feel to the brand, and the colours are pleasant. They feel kind of social carey colours. If I'm not, I'm having a picture in my mind.
No, they are, because it's the green and the blue.
Yeah, it's the
So
green.
it's the blue of the NHS and the green of care, and it's
Yeah,
like amalgamating it
yeah,
together.
and I think that works in people's
Yeah,
minds. So
absolutely.
so tell me about that, the thinking, where the results which we see now in terms of the look and feel, and what the champion social care is about, but the process of getting to there. What was the thinking behind it all?
Honestly, Adam, I think if you'd said to anybody in the organising committee that championing social care would be what it is today, from the conversations we had during lockdown about how to shine a light on the people in social care, how can we tell everybody how incredible the care workers are, because they can't see it, because it was very NHS focused, and we wanted to show what that was. So Sparkle for Social Care was one of the very first initiatives we did,
Okay.
where we asked people to just dress in something sparkly. It was
Mm.
I think it was the 13th of April during the first sort of pandemic. So, and it was just calls. And now I mean, it blows me away. We've got the care sector fundraising ball at the end of this month, which is just off the scale. It's amazing. You've got, big key events. You've got the Christmas lunch that Caring Times used to do, that Christmas lunch at the Dorchester. Well, we now take that on board. Care Sector's Got Talent, which went from being a virtual thing to being in an arena
Yeah.
last year. It's just it It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing how far. And I honestly think if you ask anybody, do you think you would be in the position today where we've got two full-time members of staff,
Mm,
and where not only do you shine a light on care sector, and particularly because you attracting people to work within the care sector, but then on the flip side of that is you attract I can never say that word, philanthropists who are
mm.
there,
But
and of course come to the ball. Yeah. They come to the ball and they're just so generous. And I'm like, wow,
mm,
we raised 400,000 last year at the ball for the Care Workers Charity and Alzheimer's Society, which is just spectacular.
mm,
And what's amazing about it, when you talked about that brand and the message that comes across, is it's all volunteers.
mm,
The organising committee, the ambassadors, it's volunteers who just give up their time.
mm,
There's nothing else apart of, we've
mm,
had to get to full-time members of staff because projects have become so big,
mm,
and are generating so much media and so much PR and so much
mm,
amazingness.
mm,
But the love that is within the core and the heart of championing social care
mm.
for the sector and for shining a light on the people within our sector, if you could bottle it, it would be amazing,
Yeah,
and give it to people.
yeah,
It's fabulous. It
yeah.
really is.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to you and everyone for the idea, following it up, doing it, implementing. It's a classic thing. Like the idea is great, but it's the implementation. Do it, and then look where it's got to from those embryonic beginnings. So, I mean,
Absolutely,
congratulations
yeah.
to you and everyone else who's been involved and is involved and supporting it. So,
Yeah, because it's all and it's patrons who
mm,
donate to be able to run the organisation. So it literally is just, yeah, it's fabulous, and it's doing such an incredible thing, shining a light on the people who work in the care sector, because they work with some of the society's most vulnerable people, and they don't get that recognition that they deserve. But it is changing, which is amazing.
And by the way, if you're listening and you know Champion Social Care and you haven't already donated, just go over to their website, think about it, because as Saskia's saying, they've done amazing work and continues to do so, and every little bit counts. So,
Absolutely. If they want to register as well for Care Sector's Got Talent, that'll be next March. And then, of course, there's the Care Home Open Week, which Champion Social Care also drive.
yeah, yeah,
So there's four massive events, and I think that it's just growing. I think we have to kind of rein it back in again, a little bit, because it's so amazing, and it's like, hang on a minute, we do all of that.
yeah. That's fabulous.
Um,
Right, wonderful. So, well, this is great. I mean, there's lots of here for people listening to think about, implement, both on that grand scale and the smaller scale around things like logos, which I have an interest in, and colors on websites and attractiveness of websites and how you market yourself and you promote yourself and your USP and how you can get those catch their attention of prospective families and then draw them and ultimately to make a phone call, inquiry, email, live chat, whatever it is, may be, look around. So
mm.
that's great. So Saskia, now, is there anything that you would like to talk about or reference that mentioned that we've not covered up to now?
Do you know what? I don't think there is. I think it's been a really enjoyable conversation. I think in a short amount of time, we've covered such a lot, which I hope will be helpful, for anybody who watches us, and will give them some quick wins to help their business be more successful.
Yeah,
But I think in a short space of time, we've managed to cover a lot, and it's
yeah.
been really enjoyable.
I
Thank
think
you.
so. And I would just reiterate what you said at actually the very, very beginning, from my experience and knowledge, is those foundations, mission, vision, unique connection.
Absolutely.
That alone, if you get that right, everything else will follow from that. The team,
Yes.
the manager, all those like there's five, six things. From
Absolutely. Values and a vision have to be at the heart of the organization, and then you attract people who have that.
I also run what's called the Care CEO Success Stories podcast, and pretty much, the CEOs will largely say the same thing. If you get that
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
And we know when we've seen it go wrong. We know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
100%.
and there's, sadly, there are many times when it goes wrong in the care sector, like any sector. But as long as we can learn from those of us who are doing it right, then
Yeah,
that's the aim of this podcast, and that's the aim of the Care CEO Success Stories podcast. So that's all great.
absolutely. And I think I've been blessed to work with some amazing CEOs and seen that and learned. I feel like I've learned my care sector I suppose experience and skill set by working with some incredible people, which has helped me understand more about how you do it from an operational and, like you said, from the values. But yeah, no, you're right. CEO down. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, great. All right. Now, Saskia, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, ask you some questions, how can they best do that?
You can email me at saskia@saskiabinns.com, or find me on LinkedIn, or you can call me. My phone number and all my contact details are on LinkedIn. Yeah, I, I'm open to, if anybody wants to pick up the phone and ask a question or just wants a bit of advice, then I love what I do. I'm so passionate about it, so I'm always happy to just help people and talk to them. So yeah.
Perfect. Great. Saskia, thank you so much for being on the Care Home PR
Thank you for
Marketing podcast.
inviting me. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.